What's up, everybody? Happy Whoa, That's Good Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. But friends, I'm just going to tell you, I'm just going to say it. It's about to get literally so much better because we have a guest on the podcast today that I am geeking out about. I have truly been so excited to have her on the podcast. So much so that I was like, I know we could do this virtually, but can you please come to Louisiana so we can get to know each other? We have Reece on the podcast. Reece, you are just like, I feel like everyone's friend from afar. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I know we've said this before, but truly, little Reece is screaming on the inside. I'm just trying to be professional.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're crushing it. I would literally never know. So this is so fun. But actually Monday, we're going to have her husband on the podcast. And we just recorded that episode with him and Christian. And it was so much fun. You guys are just amazing. People love y'all for a reason because you're easy to love. And we're just so grateful that you're here.
But I attended, you've done a ton.
What?
Okay, you've done a ton. So I am not going to be sad if you don't remember this. But
what? I'm like, oh shoot, we met before?
No, we haven't met, but I've attended like probably one of the OG Live Original tours.
Oh, yes. If it was anything like that looked
I have
like
a shirt and everything.
What? Wait, which one?
It's the one you went to Jacksonville and it was Fruit Cove Church, maybe. This was
I wonder if it was the first or second, because if it was the first, that is hilarious.
It was with Mosaic. It was with Holland.
Okay, that was the second. That was this one.
Okay, yes, that one.
So cool. Oh my gosh, wait, I love that. And I do remember that Jacksonville one, because that was like a really fun one. I remember we had some friends come, but that is so crazy. Yeah, LO has come such a long way. Like people who say there at my first tour, I'm like, were you okay? Thank you for sticking with us this long, because the heart was there, but we were so awkward. Like this was before I started speaking and I was too scared to speak, but I knew like there was something there. And so the church I grew up at, like women didn't preach in the church, so I never even seen that before. Yeah. But what we did do was we did skits. So did you know on our very first LO tour, we did skits straight up. We did like monologues. So when people are like, yeah, I was there, it's like, where are you? Okay, cool.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Oh, you really grew up with me. But that's so funny. I love that. Wait, that is so cool. And it's so funny whenever you said you were geeking out, coming, I'm like, no, literally other way around. I'm geeking out. And it was so sweet because I watched the show, of course. Is it called America's Sweethearts? Is that
yes, America's Sweethearts, Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I said that right. And when I binged the show, everyone had been telling me to watch it to see you. Like, that was specifically why people told me to watch it. I had people, like, tagging me, you got to have her on the podcast. Our podcast team was like, you have to watch the show. You have to see Reece. Like, she is just such a light. And so I'll watch it. I have all these notes that I just pulled up of just what I learned from you and what I saw in you if I were to ever have you on the podcast. So then I DM you and you sent me like the nicest message back. It literally made me tear. And this morning I was showing it to a friend and she was like, wait, that gave me chills because it was just so kind. I don't know if you even remember what you said, but you were like,
probably not. I probably blanked out because Sadie Robertson had just literally DM'd me.
It was so sweet because you said like, you've really shown me how to live original and like share the kingdom. And it was just really cool because I just watched you do that on TV, and to know that I had any influence or impact in that was like just really cool to hear. Like you didn't have to say that, but even that you did, I was like, because when I saw you on there, you were such a beautiful example of what it looks like to live original, to just be confident in who you were created to be, by who you were created from, and like own who you are in whatever space you're in. I always tell people like, when it says you are the light of the world, that's like no matter what room you walk in, if you're at school or if you're auditioning for the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, like that's who you are no matter what room you're in. And you just represented that so beautifully. But I know everyone listening to this podcast is excited to have you here. So we want to hear your story. So tell us, you grew up dancing, right? So that was always something you were passionate about, but was Dallas Cowboys Cheerleader like in that dream, or was it just something that came?
Yeah. So grew up, started dancing at the age of 3. So from the get-go, I was all in and got really serious about dance probably in middle school. I attended a middle arts school and a high school for the performing arts.
Wow.
And yeah, so I had a little bit of a different experience with middle school and high school, but loved it. I was soaking up every single class I was in. I saw the potential that maybe this could be a professional career, and that was like the ultimate dream. I just didn't really know what route that was. So whether that was dancing at Disney, growing up in Florida, I was always around the parks, or it was Broadway. I was a big Broadway girl. I love musicals, thought I could dance in New York, or taking it and doing a professional career in a sports team, whether that was like NBA or NFL. But I've always looked up to the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders because I think one of the main, most beautiful things that they just represent so well is their heart. I think service and representing something greater than yourself is something that I really drew to. And so that's what America's Sweethearts, I know the saying America's Sweethearts is truly all about. It's really giving back in such an impactful way. And I wanted to be a part of that. And then really went to Alabama. University of Alabama, was on the dance team there. I really thought I was going to go more the conservatory track because I went to an arts high school. I looked into some schools that were not anything to do with the SEC or going to a school that had sports, really. But there was an incredible, generous scholarship that I received at Alabama, and had the best 4 years there. Wow. And met my husband there. I met so many incredible people. Being a part of the dance team truly was such a unique experience, and formed a bond, a sisterhood there. And then now have a sisterhood, a sister bond with all my teammates in Dallas. And really, it's a funny story though, because COVID year, this was after really the pandemic, but this was the year we got back and everything was a little bit hybrid. We were testing the water. So this was my sophomore year of college, and I got a Christmas present, and it was going to the Rose Bowl. So usually the Rose Bowl is in California and the Cotton Bowl is in Texas, and AT&T is the host there. And this year Alabama was playing Notre Dame in the Rose Bowl at AT&T Stadium. And this was a time, I feel like the pandemic, we were thinking there was a lot going on. People were like, oh, I have this passion. Let me open a business. Like there was just so much that I felt like the pandemic brought. Obviously, there was a lot of hardship and sadness that came with it. There was a lot of people that were entrepreneurs, and they started their own thing. And so anyways, I say that because I really was starting to think about what my life was going to look like post-college. And so we go to the Rose Bowl. This is my first time in Dallas. This is my first time at the stadium, AT&T Stadium, where the Cowboys play. Had nothing to do with NFL. We were going to support the Tide at the Rose Bowl. And I walked into the stadium, and I was starstruck. I looked at the field, and I looked to my mom, and I said, I'm going to be down there one day. Wow. I want to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. And she kind of was taken back because we were in our crimson white. We were ready to go cheer on the Tide. And I just had this almost realization that this could just be maybe a potential career that I would take. And I've always loved the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders. I've always loved what they stood for. But seeing it and being in the stadium where they performed, it just kind of hit a little bit different. And I felt this piece that this was something that the Lord laid on my heart that night, and I was going to pursue it since then. Whether I made it my first round, whether I made it, year 2 trying out, I wanted to be a DCC.
Wow, that's actually so cool and so inspiring that because it is overwhelming when you go to that stadium. Yes. I was not, I didn't, ever think I was going to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, but I do remember the first time being in that stadium being like, this is crazy.
It's beautiful.
And I was kind of telling you a little bit about my first experience there, but my dad had gotten tickets, so we were able to be really close to the field. And I'll never forget the lady who was showing us around. She was so Texas. She had big hair.
Oh,
and, loved everything Texas. Oh yeah, and she was just so just sweet and loved everything about Dallas Cowboys. She wanted us to experience it.
Oh,
I'll never forget. She took us over to the field, and where the sweetest you can touch the field. She was all right, now everybody come over here, and she's touch the field. And she goes, you want to know why we touch the field? And then we said why. She said, because you can. And we quoted her on that for so many years. Do you want to know why we do this? Because you can. But it was just this sweet thing of how cool is it to touch the field? There's so much pride and so much honor and just being in something that's so big and so exciting. And so the fact that you walk in there, because a lot of people will walk in that and go like, whoa, this is too big for me. But for you to walk in and the Lord put it on your heart to go like, this might be where you're going to be at, you know? And I think
that gave me chills.
It's so cool because it truly is like his ways are so much higher than ours. And so there are going to be times when you step into something that just feels so much bigger than you. And only by the grace of God do you feel like you could step into it because you were made for it, you know?
Absolutely.
And so you had that moment. It's like, I think I could step into this because I think I'm made for this. And God prepared you for it your entire life. Like, hello, 3 years old, you're dancing. And so it's so cool. I mean, even I look back at my life and like, yeah, I was nervous to speak when I started, but then there's videos of me at 5 preaching on the countertop to my parents. And so it's like, he made you for it, you know? It's just cool to see that. But what was it like? I mean, auditions, I mean, all of that is not easy. So you had this confidence to pursue that. But as you got into it, did you maintain the confidence or did you get a little anxious? You know, I try my best to put a lot of thought into my health and taking care of myself, and it's definitely not easy, but I want to be here for my girls for as long as I can. I'm sure we all want to be here, so we got to stay healthy. And one of our biggest struggles we face with our health is, what do we eat? How do I keep up with those labels, ingredients, macros, sugars, all the things? Man, it can get complicated sometimes, but Hungry Root has your back with healthy eating, not just for me, but for your whole family. Hungry Root sends fresh, quality groceries and simple recipes to make good use of all those groceries straight to your door. All I have to do is take a fun little quiz with Hungry Root. They get to know you, your health goals, favorite flavors, and more, and then they build a personalized cart with all of your grocery needs for the whole week, along with some other recommendations for how to use them, which I think that's the coolest part. Not only do you get your groceries, but you also get ideas for what to cook with them, which is just so smart. Every order is fully customizable so that you can take their suggestion or just choose anything you want from their awesome selection of produce, meats, seafood, snacks, sweets, and more. Plus, I can rest easy knowing that everything Hungry Root offers follows the same simple standard. It has to taste good, be quick and easy to make, and contain only wholesome, trusted ingredients. Hungry Root will level up your grocery game for sure. One of the things I love about Hungry Root is we actually don't have a lot of great grocery stores in our area. I live in a pretty small town, and so it's not like common to get the most fresh groceries or things that maybe you see online that you want to try and they don't have the ingredients where you're at. But Hungry Root is so awesome because they have all of these really great for you options, these different brands that you maybe never tried, and it comes right to your doorstep. So it's so convenient and you're getting really unique things. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Whoa, That's Good podcast listeners 40% off your first delivery. And get this, free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/whoa to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/whoa. And don't forget to use our link so that they know we sent you there.
There was definitely some anxiety there. I feel like growing up, when I was younger, I would always watch the CMT show, which was Making the Team. And so seeing, the alumni who have come before you and just really watching their journey and everything, it was really surreal when I got there for the first time because I'm like, oh, they filmed there. Oh, that's Kelly and Judy. Like just all of these.
They would be intimidating to meet for the first time because they are such a presence.
They are. Yes. When they walk into the room, I'm like,
yeah,
a little straighter. My spine gets a little bit higher.
I love it.
But it is definitely a very, like you said, it's a prideful, it's a huge honor to be in such a big atmosphere, but it is a little intimidating. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that I was a little anxious about. Mm-hmm. I always looked at this dream and I was like, okay, Lord, you laid this on my heart.
Yeah.
This is really massive. And I know you are way bigger, but how are we going to get there?
Yeah.
Because this is insane. So I always had to realize, like, if this is something that the Lord has laid on my heart, obviously it's on purpose for a purpose, and he's going to use me in that in whatever way, whatever he has planned.
Yeah.
So I always just had to cling to that. And leading up to auditions, I had recently just got engaged, just graduated, submitted my first round of audition video submissions, and I was like, okay, well, it's out of my hands now. Like, Lord, this is all you, and whatever happens, may you be glorified throughout it all. Got you made it to the second round. Congratulations. And I was so excited. But now I had this shift of like, wait, that was a no. That wasn't a no. This is go time. Like, we're just a little bit step closer, a little bit more. And filmed my second round auditions, sent it in. And now my prayer was, I just want to go in person. If I, experience rejection, at least I know I could get there. And I was there in person. I could do it without a camera in front of me. I could do it face to face. And so the Lord was so faithful, and I got to the in-person auditions. And from there, I had this peace that no matter what happened, if I fell flat on my face or anything, I know that my prayer has been answered. And like whatever that looked like, whatever the Lord was going to do, he was going to do his thing. And so from there, I had peace, whether it was walking away and then trying out again, or whether that was going to training camp.
That's good.
And so anyways, we went into training camp, and there was a different form of anxiety, because now it was a taste of this actually could happen.
Yeah.
And now it was these games with spiritual warfare and, having the enemy. This is such a beautiful, amazing gift. But now it was the enemy getting his head into things like, oh, well, you made it this far, but, start comparing and start looking this way and, all of this. But I would be lying to you if I said that there wasn't anxiety. There definitely has been. That is so real. And with something that is so big, obviously it is a gift from God, but we live in a broken world. There's going to be a lot of things that I'm going to have to face, but it's been such a beautiful journey thus far. So cool. And he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
I'm just along for the ride.
Like, sometimes people think that you have to like get past your anxiety to go for something. I'm like, no, you are going to be anxious because it's just part of life. It's part of being human. And you know how people always hit you with the like, well, God says, do not be afraid. And I'm like, yes, he does. But also think about this. Every time God came to someone and said that, it was because that person was probably freaking out.
Right.
Because it was like about to be scary what God was calling them to do. He's like not calling them to small things. He's saying like, hey, first of all, I'm the Lord speaking to you, which is overwhelming. And I'm about to call you into doing something that is way bigger than who you are. Think about Joshua, like leading an entire generation into the promised land. And he says, but do not fear.
Right.
For I am with you.
Right.
And then he goes on to promise Joshua how he's going to walk this out with him. Like, be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And I think about that from the perspective of like, he's speaking to Joshua saying, be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified, because you are terrified, because I know you are, because you're human and you're about to do something so much bigger than who you are. But you don't have to be afraid, because I'm going to be with you. And then when you have the promise of God is going to be with you, there's a confidence in your humanity, knowing like it's not all on me.
Right.
Like you're truly going to be the strength of my weakness. You're going to hold me. And even if I fall on my face, and even if I don't make the team, then like you got me, And so like I think it's just this beautiful thing to walk out with God, like walk fear out with God, and not just think God's like commanding you like, don't be afraid. Why would you be afraid? Go for it. When it's like, no, obviously you're going to have some fear because you're human, but just reminding yourself like he called you to it. So he's going to sustain you through it and be with you the whole time. And he obviously was, and it's like so cool to see even just like the raw, I don't know if that's the right word, but like just like the raw feelings that every girl had and expressed on the show. Like it was so vulnerable, so real, so raw. And like you need people to walk that out with you, and having God do that with you is like so important. One thing that you said was like comparison starts creeping into your mind, and how could it not? Like you're sitting there with like some of the most beautiful girls in the world, and you are absolutely stunning, but it doesn't matter, I don't think, what you look like when other girls are looking like that and amazing dancers and all that stuff. Your mind can start, the enemy definitely can weave in there. But it's so cool to see that despite the comparison that's probably naturally there, just the sisterhood that you guys really do form, and like how for each other you really were. That's actually why I wore my sister shirt today.
I love that. I noticed that.
That's right, girl. I love sisterhood. Like, LO sister is our thing. We always talk about being a sister and a friend to people. y'all were so driven by that sisterhood. You saw that throughout the whole show, through training, through the ups and the downs, and then from being on the team and being best friends. How do you feel like in an environment like that where it's so set up to compete, you guys still form such a beautiful sisterhood?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I feel like we're always in the thick of this competitive stage, not necessarily with each other, but with yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where we hop on board, because all of our perspectives and our integrity behind the competition is personal. And I think when we all are on board with that, that's when you can support each other, saying like, hey, I know you're going through this, but how can I support you in that way? And I think that's what sets us, really anything that I've been a part of, apart from just naturally, like you said, 36 beautiful, talented, well-rounded, well-spoken, smart, incredible, the list can go on, women. It is natural just to feel like, one, intimidation, but two, to compare. And I feel like we are always there because we've experienced that and we all feel the same way. Why not press into supporting one another rather than competing with one another? Because we're all walking through it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It is so unique. It's a little abnormal, to say the least. But we get to do it together rather than separate, because we're a team at the end of the day with the same why, the same heart, the same intentions. And that's so, so powerful.
Gosh, I love that. That's like the best answer, because we all feel the same way. So why not press into it instead of act like it's not there? Y'all, I love being a mom so much. It is my favorite thing in the world, but it definitely does come with some challenges. But one thing I can confidently tackle in this crazy season is diapering with Every Life. They are the fastest growing diaper company in America, but sadly, the only pro-life diaper company too. Every Life believes that every baby is a gift and a blessing, no matter what color their skin is or whether they were planned or unplanned. Every Life knows every baby deserves love, protection, and celebration. They have an amazing mission, and I love that. But they also have premium products that are the best a mom can get. Every Life super soft diapers have 12-hour leak protection and are made without dyes, lotions, fragrances, parabens, and other hard-to-pronounce ingredients. They are clean and safe for your baby, and they are also delivered right to your front door. What I love about Every Life is they really are committed to helping people. Sometimes, people get so focused on like, this is what we do, this is just the way that we help people, but they really expand that. They see a need and they really fit it, just like the hurricane that just swept through and devastated so many communities. They've even partnered to help people going through that. And so I just think it's amazing. They really do what they say they're going to do. They help moms in the hardest times of their life and, with a really messy thing like diapers. And it's really cool too, because everyone can be a part of this. So if Every Life's mission resonates with you, you can actually join the cause even if you don't have a baby at home. Their Buy for a Cause bundles are donated to pregnancy resource centers all over the country who are in urgent need of diapers and wipes. These donations serve new moms who have decided to choose life for their babies, which I think, how cool is that? To back up what you say you believe in, actually support these moms is so amazing. And something like diapers, because if you have a baby, you're gonna have to have diapers, and you have to keep having to have diapers because they're gonna keep going to the bathroom. And so I just think this is a great way to step in and serve something that's so beautiful. So visit everylife.com today and use promo code WHOA at checkout to get 10% off your first order. That's everylife.com with the promo code WHOA to save 10% off your first order and help a lot of people out. That is so real, because I remember feeling this way in high school. I can't remember if this was said or I just kind of started to notice it. I'm like, does everybody feel intimidated? Does everybody feel insecure? Does everybody lack confidence? And it's like, why? Why do we all feel this way and just act like it's normal? Does everybody feel jealous of each other? Does everybody whatever? And it's like, can we just talk about it and help each other through this? Because I don't feel like I know we weren't created for this. I know this isn't the original design. Yeah. So how do we get past it? And I think it is just leaning into it. It's talking about, it's being open. I remember this one girl in particular that I had felt just jealous of. And I told a friend hey, I hate that I feel this way. I don't want to feel that way about her. And after just talking to a friend about it, it was I want to start celebrating her wins. And so then it was just a shift in celebrating that person. And then one day God opened the door to actually share with that person, hey, I used to feel this way towards you, but like I'm just so proud of what God's doing in your life, and I really do celebrate it. And I like truly meant that from the bottom of my heart. And it was so cool because then she shared, she was the same way about me. She was like, I actually felt that way about you, and I really wrestled that out. And I talked to someone, and I was like, that's crazy. Like, and it's just so, it's like you're kind of surprised by it. You're like, really? You felt that way about me? But I'm like, of course, because we're all girls and we struggle with similar things. And it's like, just because everyone struggles with it doesn't mean that it's normal. It doesn't, I mean, it's normal, but doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it's like okay. And so I think it's really cool how you guys leaned into it and like seem to have such a strong community, even like Bible studies and stuff. That I thought that was so cool. They showed that on the show, that you guys even had like sisterhood in the Word. Because I feel like some people think, you know, when you go into more secular spaces, they're like, are you gonna like show that you're a Christian or not or whatnot? But when you do, it's so cool because then you see others around you are too, and you can get together and like grow together. So it was just beautiful to see you guys walk through that. I wanted to ask you too, just about, you know, how you said it's a competition with yourself. Like you guys hold yourselves to such a high standard. I mean, yes, the whole organization holds you to that, but you guys all seem a little bit driven like that naturally.
Absolutely.
That perfectionism in you. How do you see that playing out as a benefit? Like as far as like some of it's good because it drives you, but then when do you know it's like become too far? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So I laugh about this. It's not funny, but I just laugh because it happens so often where I am a perfectionist and I want everything to go my way. But when I get to a point and my eyes go up and I'm like, can't do this anymore. Like, Lord, this is yours. That's when I know I've hit my like too much. Obviously, I always need God. I always need him to just be at the forefront. But there's times where I'm like, oh, I've got to get this one step, or I've got to have my hair perfect. I have to have this. I have to have this. When really it's all out of my control. And I'll notice the enemy start to jab into that and start calling that as more like an identity, where I think about, oh, well, if this doesn't go this way, it's because of X, Y, and Z. And that is where I know I've gone way too far. Yeah. Perfectionism can be a pro where you are driven and you're motivated and you're going to work really, really hard. But it can't be an idol, and it can't be something that I think is realistic, because it is an unrealistic expectation. No one is perfect. I'm so messy and chaotic that I have to remember that, you know, there's going to be times where perfectionism is a good thing, but with a pretty intimidating atmosphere, it can be so negative so quickly.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain that. You're so well spoken, by the way.
Thank you.
No, truly, like so well spoken and breaking that down so well. I'm like, I can so relate to that because I have a lot of that in me too, and in a different way, and it comes out in a different form. But like sometimes that can be a really good thing because it helps me to work hard. But then you're so right. When it gets wrapped up around the identity into it, then it can get really hard. Right. I think for me, someone recently told me, it was like this feedback someone gave me. We're about to step into this new project, and someone said, you're going to have to let yourself go because you're very image driven. And or image conscious. And I was like, what? I was offended. I was like, you think I'm like image conscious and driven? And because the way he said it, it made me think that he was saying I care too much about what I look like. Right. And I was like, no, like I'll take my makeup off right here and show you all my flaws, you know? But he's like, no, bigger than that, bigger than just like what you look like. You care about how people perceive you so much that you're going to have to let yourself go. And I was like, do I care that much about how people perceive me? And I started thinking about that because I'm a very like introspective person. So if someone gives me a comment like that, I'm like, let me think about that. Is that true?
Oh, that is so me. I am such a like people pleaser, and I'm like, ooh, I gotta watch myself there.
Know, same. So then I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, in some sense, I do, like, because I really do want to come across a certain way to people, and it's who I really am. But sometimes when I care too much about how that's perceived by someone else, like that's out of my hands, you know? So if like someone has a bad comment on social media that's like not true about who I am, I can't let that reshape how I act in the next video. You know, if like someone's like, oh, you shouldn't do this dance video, blah, blah, blah. Like instead of caring too much about that and what they think, I have to know, well, I know who I am. I know why I do what I do, and carry on like that. Absolutely. And so anyways, it was just a really good, like he kind of hit me with it. And I was like, how much of my identity really is in what other people perceive in me, and how much do I really hang on that, you know? Is it so much so that I can't just let loose and be who I am? And so it's just a good like self-evaluation moment. I actually wrote down, and one of the things that I noticed is like how good you were at taking criticism, because like they would give you a comment and you'd be like, yes, ma'am, like done. Does that, as a perfectionist, was that harder to hear than you put off, or did you actually genuinely appreciate it because you're like, I want to get better? Like where do you fall in that?
Yeah, so there are times where if I know deep down, this is really sad, but when I was younger, if someone were to, you know, next to me got in trouble, I would take the blame for it, because I just don't like confrontation, and I don't really like getting corrected. But if I knew someone, or if I know deep down I didn't do it, then that doesn't bother me. But I think what's really hard is with dance, something that I have done at such a young age, it can be kind of hard because it's all you've done your life and all you've worked so hard. And obviously every single one of us have worked so hard to get there. And so sometimes you have to kind of swallow that humble pill a little bit, but I genuinely do appreciate it because I want to get better. And I respect the mess out of everyone who corrects me, because I know that their story and their testimony as a dancer is so unique to them, and they've learned so much throughout their journey that I want to apply that on mine. And so it's kind of both.
That's how I am too, because that was what I noticed in myself, even with that one comment this person gave me. It was like, I took it so to heart, and I was like, I want that because I do want to be better. And if you see that in me, I want to think about it. But then you get that like, oh, but that's something I worked so hard to not be. So I hate to even get that comment, you know? So it's like, even with dance, it can be as small as like, oh, you did this move wrong. It's like, you worked so hard to not do that move wrong that you're like, okay, yeah, thank you.
Darn.
You know, darn. So I totally get it. Friends, you've heard me talking about AG1 for a while now, but for a limited time, I have a special offer for you that is a $67 value. When I first started drinking AG1, I was looking for something simple and healthy I could build into my daily routine. These days, there are so many options out there that it's really hard to know where to start if you're just looking to make a change. And I'm so glad that I started with AG1, because from the first day, I could feel a difference in my energy and my focus levels. Like really, it was amazing. Getting a daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre and probiotics, adaptogens, and more is just an extra bonus. AG1 fills the gaps in my nutrition, supports healthy digestion, and provides gut, immune, and stress support in every scoop. Plus, it has been shown to double the amount of healthy bacteria in your gut. And in a recent study, actually 80% of participants noticed less gas and bloating after just 30 days. So hey, that's a major win. Gut health is super important to your overall health and quality of life. And so that's why I recommend AG1 to everyone. AG1 was actually something that Christian tried first. And I didn't really think I was going to like it because Christian's very healthy. He works out. He does all this stuff. I'm like, that looks like such a you thing. And then I tried it and I was like, wait, wow, this is so easy. It's so easy to fit into my routine. I actually felt so great that day when I tried it. And so it's become a staple for me. My family members now use it. Friends of mine love AG1. And I even travel with it because once you have it, you definitely want to keep that nutrition in your body. So start with AG1 and notice the difference for yourself. It's a great first step to investing in your health. And that's why they've been a proud partner of ours for so long. Try AG1 today and get your special offer of 10, yes, that's 10 free travel packs and a bottle of vitamin D3 K2 with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/whoa. Again, that's a $67 value for free if you go to drinkag1.com/whoa today and check it out. Do you do the Enneagram at all?
I do.
Okay.
So if I'm not mistaken, I'm so close to a 2 and a 3 that I think it's like a 2 wing 3 or 3 wing 2, however it works. But
that's what I was going to ask you, because the 3 is like the perfectionist.
Yes.
And so I'm a 6 on the Enneagram, but in its unhealthy, it like goes to a 3. So like I always know I'm in a not great healthy spot whenever I am people pleasing and trying to be on that. And then in the health of a 6 is the 9, which is like the peacemaker, and it's like confident where you're at, you know? So I can judge it pretty quickly. I'm like, where am I landing on that? But I do know in like my humanness, that's where it tends to go. So I don't know. As I was watching the show, I was like, man, I can so relate to this. But you did such a good job. Like you were so like, yes, ma'am. Done, fix it, no problem, smile on your face, which leads me to a comment you got on the show, actually. I think it was your coach, and she said, what, I'm going to read it exactly how she said it. Oh, she said, she is so delightful. Does she ever get mad? So that was so true, though, because you are such a delight. But like, Reece, do you ever get mad?
Oh, absolutely. I get mad about things that my perfectionist will kick in on, things that it was in my control, even though it's never in my control. It's always the Lord's. But when I feel like my hand was on it and something doesn't go right, I do get mad because I'm like, oh, that's on me. And either I didn't please someone or, something happened because of something I said or did or whatever. I'll get mad about that, and I'll get mad on myself, not necessarily about someone or something. But I think too, one of my coaches said too, like, does she ever cry? And that scene specifically right before Will and I watched it, because that was our first time watching it together, I was a little overwhelmed. And so I just started to cry. Simply, I can't explain some of the reasons why I cry and why they happen, but we just thought that was really funny, because I'm like, well, little do you know that 5 minutes ago, I just had a meltdown.
Yep. You're like, watching it on TV. You're like, just did.
My tissues are in my hand.
That is so relatable. Especially like doing this podcast, because I'm having these great conversations with people and like learning so much. You're giving good advice, you're going back and forth. And then sometimes I'll be like watching the clip on Instagram from that podcast. I'm like, oh, I needed that today. Like, I'm putting this message out there, but like, I need to hear that. So just remember, at the end of the day, literally everyone is human, no matter how perfect anyone looks. Okay, one thing I want to talk to you about, because I thought this was such a sweet moment, is whenever you put your uniform on for the first time and you were like, I feel like Wonder Woman, which I was like, yes, girl, you look like Wonder Woman, you feel like Wonder Woman. And I love Wonder Woman. So I just was like, you're rocking it. How did it feel just to like know, okay, this huge dream I've had for so long, like I'm here. Was it putting on the uniform and doing your pictures that day that kind of let it sink in?
Yeah. So when we had uniform fittings, and this is before you made the team. So it's like you see the finish line, but you're just not there yet.
Dang.
So it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so close, but I could get cut anytime. So it was just like that motivation of like, I want this. But I think when I put that uniform on, I don't necessarily look at really the outward appearance of it. It is such a beautiful uniform. I will say it is designed beautifully. But I look at how hard I had to work and the sacrifices made of all 35 of my teammates and the hours upon hours in the studio. I look at like adversity that we faced and all of that. And when you put on that uniform, you don't just get this uniform. You have to work really hard for it. And so when it's on, it almost is this empowering moment knowing I just faced so much to get to where I am. Yeah. I feel like a superhero.
That's so cool.
Not to put it on me, to be selfish, but to realize that there's a lot of work and a lot of tears and a lot of motivation that goes behind it to wear the uniform. But cool. It was such a pinch me moment. I remember sitting at our cameos when we were getting our photos done, and I was in the uniform. This was probably 2 days after we made the team. So this was my first time in it, sitting in it, letting it kind of sink in, but not. I'm still on cloud 9. I'm looking at one of my teammates, one of the vets, and she's in her uniform, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, that's a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, like right there in front of me. And I remember her looking at me and like, no, you are one now too.
Wow.
And just having that realization, it's still, to me, today is so surreal.
Wow.
But yeah, it is one of those superhero outfits that I feel like I feel so confident in, but in a healthy and hopefully an inspiring confidence, not one that's cocky, but one that's humble.
Yeah, I love that. I love that just in a healthy, confident way, because there's a difference, for sure. So I wanted to ask you about the uniform, in particular about just, because I remember whenever I went on Dance with the Stars, and in like the church world, it was like such a big deal that I was going to Dance with the Stars, and people were freaking out about it because they're like, you're going to go on that show with all those, outfits that are so skimpy and all this stuff and dance on TV. And I remember my mom saying so strongly to me, like, Sadie, you are the light of the world. Like, no matter what space you're in. So if you go and Dance with the Stars, then you're going to be the light there. And yes, like use wisdom and certain moves and all the different things. We had a great talk, but it was just like, hey, you don't go away from the darkness, you go into it kind of thing.
Absolutely.
That's what my mom was encouraging me to. Which was like so true, because sometimes the church, it's like, oh no, how could you do that? It's like, aren't we supposed to like go to these spaces, like wherever we feel called to go? Not that that's a dark space, but I just remember personally in that experience with Dancing with the Stars, feeling that and having that feedback. How have you had that wrestle with just like modesty in general, but also like owning where you're at and in that space that God clearly called you to? Has that been a wrestle, or is that something that, how do you get to the point of confidence in your heart on where you're at with that?
Yeah, so I feel like that is definitely something I've wrestled with before making the team, because it's like, what if I do make it? Am I going to receive that? Not backlash, but maybe pressure in a way of some commentary that's probably not the best to experience or feel and everything. When I put that uniform on, I hope, my intentions and prayer is that people see him and not necessarily like the outward appearance. I want them to look inward, and I hope that every single interaction, when I'm in the uniform, when we get to have appearances and talk to people, that he is in the spotlight, and really the uniform itself isn't, because I know there are some stereotypes that are probably labeled on, especially someone who has a relationship with Christ and is wearing something like that. But I look at modesty, it's really just how you present yourself and how you are, treating others, how you are showing the love of Christ. And like you said, this isn't necessarily a dark world that I'm in a dark place, but it does push a little bit of those boundaries and those stereotypes. And so I just hope that he is glorified throughout it all. And if I have the right posture and the right intentions, then I know that he's going to use it in such a mighty way that I could never.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree. I think so much of it is how you carry yourself, how you present yourself. We were kind of talking about this a little bit before the podcast, but you can do the same move, but carry it so differently with just your facial expressions and your heart posture. And I love this piece of advice Onika McClellan gave on the podcast one time. She's so amazing. And I was asking her about that balance of like, she loves fashion, like so into fashion, and she's so cute. But I was like, how do you carry that balance of like modesty in that? And I wasn't even talking about like the amount of clothing. I just mean like maybe just the fact that fashion is so important. How do you carry that balance of like, yes, I like to look cute, but also it's not like everything. And she said, I always want to be, when I walk into a room, a there you are person, not a here I am person. And she was like, when I walk into a room, no matter what I'm wearing, like I'm not walking into a room going like, oh, I hope everyone sees me, like here I am. I'm walking into the room going like, there you are, friend. And she so is that person. Like when Onika walks in the room, she looks amazing, but like her eyes are so on you. She's so focused on you, engaged, like you feel so loved and so special. And I think that like as a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, like looking like a superhero, being so beautiful, being so accomplished, like people could be very intimidated by you. But the fact that you make people feel so welcome, so loved, so accepted as they are, so beautiful, like when you look in their eyes, like you are such a good representation of like, there you are. Like, and I actually think as an organization, just from the show, most of the girls carry themselves like that. You 100%. Really felt that. Like how you say it's bigger than who you are. It really is about service. It's about loving other people. That was eye-opening to me watching the show. You really got to see the heart behind why it is what it is, what it really is so much bigger than what you just see, on surface level. And it was beautiful to see that. And so I think you carry that extremely well. It's really cool to see. And I hope that, no matter who you are out there, like as women, you have to know other women feel intimidated no matter what room they walk in. Yeah. And if everyone as a woman, instead of walking into a room being like, here I am, but just carried that presence that there you are.
That's beautiful.
It would make every room of women just feel like they're actually sisters.
Absolutely.
And so, we talk about just the whole thing being such a dream of your life. Here you are in the uniform, got the boots on, like the whole thing's happening. You are Dallas Cowboys Cheerleader. I love how the show ended though, with you guys taking your makeup off, taking the uniform off. Like, how have you carried that balance of having so much pride for where you've come, but not letting your identity get wrapped into something that you do know is temporary?
I just always see this, and if you watch the show, I know I say this, but truly this is like at the forefront every single day, is that this is all for him. And I know that this season is temporary and that everything that I do, no matter where I go, it's on purpose for a purpose. And so I have to remind myself that this is not the end for me. This isn't the peak. This isn't the ending. This is just the beginning. And he's going to build my testimony throughout this chapter and this journey to take me to the next chapter and to the next season of life. And so I just have to remind myself that this isn't it. This isn't all who Reece is. Reece is way, way more than just a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. I'm a daughter, and I've been called his.
That's right.
And that's just something I always have to remind myself, that this should never be an idol. This should never be something that labels me. Instead, this should be just another chapter of my life that the Lord's going to use me in whatever way that is. I remember my prayer right before, all of this happened, and even before making the team was like, Lord, may you be glorified, and would you use me no matter what that looks like. I don't know what you have in store, but would you use me? And boy, has he taken that and ran with it.
Wow.
So
it's amazing. It's so cool. And I love that you said that, like, this isn't the peak. Like, this is just the beginning. It's just a part of the story. It's just a chapter. And I feel like everybody's life is like that. And sometimes we get nervous, like, oh, our best days behind us. So we already peak, and that's such a sad way to look at life, because like every day, his mercies are new every morning. Like, he goes from glory to glory to glory. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and end. Like, why would my life just be, one season be the highlight of it all? I think that there's so much to come. And I was telling you that before we started, I was like, if Dancing with the Stars was the peak for me, then shoot, I would have had a long life after the peak, because that was at 17. But like, that was a part of it, but man, now like I got married to the love of my life. I have 2 beautiful, incredible children. Like, that was all to come later, and now like doing this podcast for 6 years and doing all these things. But like more than that, just like the blessings of the day to day, and like the friends that I'm surrounded with, like the best community, the most amazing family. Like, there's so much joy in the day to day, and like it's not just defined by one moment. And I think so many people, they talk about like, what is it, like 15 minutes or 15 seconds of fame, whatever it is. It's like a very small amount of time,
right? And
I think sometimes like people deem like success in life as like those 15 seconds of fame. So that's why like that would be defined as like the peak. But it's like, well, that would be really sad if life was just for 15 seconds. Like, we have like eternity to go. So that should not be like the only thing we're counting on. But also, it's like, what is success? Is it hitting 15 seconds of fame? Is it blowing up on TikTok? Is it just getting the job title that you've wanted? Is it just this? Or like, is it to have a well-rounded, full life in the day-to-day, and like have a relationship with the Lord, have a relationship with the people around you, like actually get to experience bits of heaven on earth and just the people that God put in your life? Like, I just think you have to like redefine what success is to you in order to not let your identity get wrapped in your success of the moment, because it's not just about the moment, it's about sustaining it for a lifetime, And so that's why like you got to find yourself in the things of the Lord, because like those are the only things that are going to last forever. And what a blessing it is to like be found in the Lord, because those things that you talked about, that you mentioned, like your relationship with God, your husband, like your family, like that's going to be there forever, even when Dallas Cowboys Cheerleader fades. And so you're such a beautiful testament to so many people out there, because not everyone is a Dallas Cowboys Cheerleader, but again, we're daughters, we're sisters, we're friends, and we can connect on that heart level. As everybody gets wrapped up in this stuff in their own way. Yeah. You know what? I didn't ask you at the beginning of this podcast, so I'll ask you at the end of the podcast, Reece. I always ask every guest who comes on the podcast what the best piece of advice they've ever been given is. What would be yours?
So just 3 simple words, and it's from my mom, just be you. And I know that obviously, I feel like everyone says that to people, but those 3 words hold such significance and power in my life, because no matter where I go, the Lord's going to use me, whatever that looks like. And the world is going to try to change you and change your opinions and maybe your appearance and the people you hang with and just so many things. Like the world is just going to put that pressure on you. Whereas the Lord created you perfectly in His image. Why not show that to the world and just be you? And so my mom says it all the time, and sometimes I give her the eye roll of like, okay, Mom, but it is so true, because in everything that I have done that the Lord has given me, that piece of advice is just be you, because that's who God created. He didn't make a mistake. And so I am very flawed and I am very imperfect, but He did not mess up my story and my journey and my life.
That's right.
And I just have to be me.
That's right, girl. Yeah. I love it. Well, live original is pretty much those 3 words and another way of saying it. And that's what my dad spoke over me whenever I was really young. And it has stuck with me, and it has shaped so much of who I am. And it's funny that you say, like, yes, everyone says it, but if everyone said it and believed it, we would act differently, Absolutely. So it's not just something you say, it's something you really have to believe. And I had this moment the other day with this girl. We were at the Dance with the Stars show, so there's all these people there, and she had previously been on the show too, and she was one of the winners. And someone came up to us and they said, like, oh, if there's ever an all-star season, like you two, like it's going to be you two. So they were just joking. Yeah. And she was like, oh, not if so-and-so comes back, because if she comes back, then like we don't have a chance. And like if she comes back, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what are you talking about if she comes back? I was like, I'm getting in there. Like it's been 10 years for me, but I'm getting in there. And then she was like, no, like, do you know how good she is? And she started focusing on this other person, how good this other person is. And if she was in the competition, there's no way me and you could win and all this stuff. And you could just kind of start to see like insecurity rise, because if this other girl was here, then we wouldn't have a chance. And then she goes, and if it was all-star season, not just her, like all these other people would be back, and I just don't know if like I couldn't do that. And she just got so in her head. And I looked at her, I said, hey, stop looking to the left and the right. I said, you are an original, and people voted for you to win on your season compared to all the other people, because you were you. And like people love you for you, not compared to who she was or who that person was. And so I just kind of gave her the spiel, and part of me was like, don't be that person. Like, don't sit here and give the live original talk. But at the same time, I was like, she needs it. So like, I give her this spill, and like, she doesn't know who I am. She doesn't know my message, anything like that. And she stopped. Like, she just stopped and she went, can I record you say that? Aww. And she was like, no, really, can I record you say that? And I was like, so we kind of stopped. And I said, no, like, I really mean that. And I said, like, you are an original. You are who you are. There's no clone. Nobody's a copy. And I was like, and you don't need to compare yourself, because there's no one to compare you to. I was like, and by the way, like, people love you for you. That's why you won, And so we just had this great chat, and it was so beautiful, because again, even in my mind, I'm like rolling my eyes at myself, like, telling her to live original, like, just be you. It sounds like, whatever. But like, she stopped in her tracks and was like, I want to record you say that, because I needed to hear that. And so I just love those 3 words. I love what that embodies. I think it's so powerful when you say it and you follow it up by living it and you live it. You are a true just be you person. And I think when you do that, you give people around you the freedom to do that too. It kind of takes the, like, when you're confident in who you are and you're just naturally who you are, then the person beside you is like, man, I don't have to try to be anyone else. I can be me too.
Absolutely.
And so it creates such an effect. But you are such an inspiration. I'm so glad we have you on the podcast next week too, because if I just ended it here, everybody would be like, we need more. But don't worry, on Monday, we have Will on as well, talk about your relationship. But Reece, thank you for who you are, the example you set, and for being here to be on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for being such a light and a role model for the next generation, today's generation. It truly is. I went to one of your OG Live Original
I can't believe that
conferences, and I just remember knowing like, wow, she is on fire and she is just doing what the Lord has called her to do. And you have instilled in me to walk boldly in that and to be unapologetic about who I am and my faith. And that just totally speaks volumes for you and who you are. So thank you. This is truly one of the biggest honors ever.
Wow. Thank you. That is so sweet. Man, that means so much. Thank you for saying that. And I know we ended it, but I just have to say this too, just for those listening, because I think that there is this lie in this narrative that if you were to live totally on fire for the Lord, what would other people think about you, or you wouldn't be accepted into certain spaces. And I think that hopefully we can be a testimony to, I think that's a lie from the enemy. I think the enemy will have you believe oh man, if you really stepped out in faith, then people wouldn't like you, or people would think you're this or you're that. Yeah. But I think if you really stepped out in faith and you really acted the way that Christ did, what it actually means to be a Christian, to be like Christ, that would mean that you're the most loving person, the most joyful person. You would be a person of peace. You would be a person of self-control. Not that you are that friend, but that the Holy Spirit is that in you. And that's things that the world craves. And so why would you be afraid of that? Now, not to say there won't be trials. Of course there will. Jesus said, if the world hates you, it hated me first. So don't expect to be loved by everyone. Don't expect to not have backlash, to not have spiritual warfare. That's a part of it. But the fruit on the other side of just a relationship with the Lord is so worth whatever fear you have in your life. And I think if you were to just live boldly, people would come around you who are doing that as well, And so I just wanted to say that because I know people out there listening to this podcast and going man, I wish I lived my faith out like that, but I can't because ... And I just don't know that there is a ... I think you can no matter what, because God made you, He created you, and He put you in the world for this time. And so, Reece, thank you for living it out. This is hopefully a huge encouragement to people.
I hope so.